Here in the Netherlands, there's an old saying: God created the world, but the Dutch created the Netherlands. Without this Dutch ingenuity, you would not be standing here today, and the spot would be more than 4 meters underwater. 2,000 years ago, the area now known as North Holland was still a vast peat marsh. But as sea levels rose, a number of large lakes emerged. These included Permer Lake, Beemster Lake, and the lake that gives its name to the region we're in now, Schirmer Lake. From Schirmer Lake, one could sail all the way to the bay, once known as the Zuiderzee, now the IJsselmeer. This connection proved vital to the people of this region, who made a living from shipping, fishing, and whaling. These were lucrative trades, and by the end of the 16th century, villages such as Graft and De Rip, located on an island in Schirmer Lake, had grown extremely wealthy. This wealth is still evident in the richly decorated houses, churches, and other historic buildings from this period. For the people of Holland, however, water was not only a source of wealth, but also of danger. The Zuiderzee was often stormy and treacherous. Despite the construction of seawalls to hold back the waters, severe flooding was all too common. In 1570, the disastrous All Saints flood left large parts of the Netherlands underwater. Tens of thousands of people were killed, and entire villages were swept off the map. It was clear that new tactics were needed if the Dutch were to win their war on water. The modern Dutch system of water management has its origins in this era. Officials at the time came up with a risky but potentially lucrative strategy: draining lakes to create new, fertile land. The 17th century was a golden age of economic prosperity for the Netherlands, and rich investors in cities like Alkmaar were excited by the idea of creating new land. They built barriers known as dikes around the lakes, and then used drainage windmills to pump the water from the lakes into large ring-shaped canals dug just outside the dikes. The drainage mills they used were designed by Dutch engineer Jan Levater. This museum is a fine example of one of his designs. These mills are known as binnenkraaiers, or inside winders, as the cap could be turned from inside the mill in order to change the position of the sails. The body of the mill is made up of 8 heavy wooden beams, giving it its distinctive octagonal shape. The top portion of the windmill, known as the cap, rests on wooden rollers, allowing it to be turned in any direction. Turning the cap to bring the sails into the wind is known as winding the mill. Winding is done using an enormous wheel located inside the body of the mill. Once the sails are in position, the miller attaches the sailcloths and releases the brake. This is done by pulling on a long rope attached to the brake lever, which projects from the back of the cap. With the brake released, the sails are free to turn. Their movement causes the brake wheel to turn, which drives the main shaft running vertically through the entire mill. Gear wheels then transfer the movement of the main shaft to the scoop wheel, or Archimedes screw. Scoop wheels can lift water approximately 1.5 meters, or 5 feet. Schirmer Lake was over 4 meters, or 13 feet deep in places, which was more than a single windmill could handle. To solve this problem, Dutch engineers used a technique known as step drainage. Water was pumped out in stages by a series of windmills, with each mill pumping water up toward the next. Often, 3 or even 4 mills were needed to get the water from the lake into the large ring-shaped canal that surrounded it. The windmill you are now visiting was once part of a series of 6 mills working together, of which only 3 have survived. In total, 52 windmills were needed to drain Schirmer Lake, which covered over 4,800 hectares, or about 18 square miles. Work began in 1633 with the digging of a ring-shaped canal around the lake. By 1635, Schirmer Lake had been transformed into the Schirmer Polder, a Dutch term for land reclaimed from water. The fertile new lands were divided into plots and used for farming. But the windmill's job was not over yet. They continued to pump away water, ensuring that the land that had been drained stayed that way. Over the years, many of the windmills were moved to new locations in order to keep water levels in balance. In the mid-19th century, the Schirmer windmills were all fitted with an Archimedes screw. While this technology had been in use in the Netherlands since the 17th century, it was new to the Schirmer region. An Archimedes screw is capable of lifting water much higher than a scoop wheel, making it ideal for use in drainage mills. For nearly 300 years, the Schirmer windmills defended the region against encroaching water. But in 1928, they were replaced by 3 electric pumping stations. Nowadays, this same work is carried out by 2 computerized pumping stations. As a result, the windmills were abandoned. Most fell into disrepair and were eventually torn down. Fortunately, however, people began to realize that losing the windmills would mean losing a vital part of their cultural heritage. Over the years, windmills had also grown into an internationally recognized symbol of the Netherlands. For this reason, the remaining 11 windmills in the Schirmer region were lovingly restored to their former glory. The people and government of the Netherlands are proud of their past. The Dutch king has become an expert on water management, and Dutch hydraulic engineers are highly regarded throughout the world for their expertise in taming the elements. Time marches on, but the Dutch battle against water is never-ending. While windmills are no longer used for water management, they are still a vital part of our heritage. We are fortunate to have these beautiful old mills to remind us of our roots and of our age-old and ongoing struggle with water.